as we enter into the sacred space of listening and receiving, I invite you to join me in this short induction ceremony in order to be fully open, receptive, and aligned with the information that is for your highest good in this conversation today. Begin by closing your eyes and taking a deep breath into the belly. And as you're breathing, bring your awareness into your heart center, making contact with the light in your heart. And find your heart light glowing, growing and expanding out around your chest. And now bring that light of your heart up through your crown center, through the top of the head, extending up all the way above you into central sun, making contact with the heart energy of central sun. And then bring that powerful energy down through the ethers into the crown of your head, down through your body, and into your heart center, expanding and joining with the light in your heart, and continuing down to the base of your spine, extending down all the way down into the center of the earth, making contact with the heart center of Mother Earth. And now bring that nurturing energy up through the layers of the earth, carrying liquid crystal plasma through roots up into the base of your spine, and then spreading into every cell of your body, moving into the heart center, joining with the light from above and joining with the light of your heart, creating a holy trinity of light within you, and then spreading out around you, holding space for your highest good, your highest awakening, and the opening to receive the divine downloads, encodements, activations, and light codes that are perfect for you at this time. Breathe that in deeply into your belly, allowing yourself to expand in this energy and opening to step in to the container of receiving. Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension, Season 6, Exploring Expanded States of Consciousness. I'm your host, Waxéla Sananda, and today we have Dr. Sharnael. Welcome, Dr. Sharnael.
Hello, how are you?
So good, and really happy, excited to have this conversation with you today. So for starters, you're a first-time interviewee on the Alchemy of Ascension, so you might be new to many of the viewers, and I'd love for you to just share a little bit about your work and what got you into the place that you are now with the audience in your own words.
Well, that is a lot. As everybody would be my age by now, everyone's had their shifts and changes, and everything has led to where I am now. But initially, I've had encounters since very small. Always felt very called to service to humanity. Had an encounter with Jesus actually at 4 years old. I was a part of some Montauk projects from 73 to 76 because of some of the bloodline and whatever gifting they already had in me with my genetics, whether induced and or naturally there, kind of a combination. And then they honed in on those with lots of practice and different things that the projects come with. But over time, Yeah, I felt like service. I didn't know how service would look, being in service to the world. Um, when I moved to Louisiana at 13, and everybody there is pretty much in church. Um, I had never grown up in church or anything religious at all, so it was very foreign to me. But when you're 13 and you want to make friends and you have moved every year or every 2 years for a long, long time, just the teenage thing. So I started going to church and, hearing about love and God and other things that, again, God and love wasn't foreign to me, but just some of the logistics and the terminology were a little bit different. But I just felt like, well, maybe this is my path, maybe this is the way I'll be able to fulfill what I felt within me to serve. And I also had a real strong passion for animals. And so I thought about, veterinarian or minister, which one. And I went to Bible school, went to seminary, got my master's. I really felt like I was going to have a doctorate in divinity. But in the middle of all of that, I kind of was just like really questioning things. And, the further and deeper that I got in, the more I had questions, and questions were not really tolerated very well in some ways, not everybody, but and then also gender in that specific religion was very difficult to get into. It was all a man world when it came to this specific arena that I was in. And so I wasn't going to change my body parts just to fill a purpose. And I just decided, you know what, whatever. And so I did a lot of odd jobs, different ways, just always in the back of my mind thinking I'm going to get there. I worked in cardiac rehab. I worked psych units. My undergraduate was in natural wellness and kinesiology, because they wouldn't let me be in religious education as a woman. But again, when I went to get my master's, and I started really, seeking out things and questioning and, thinking maybe there's another route here, and there was, so I started working with some other groups in the spiritual communities, started doing conferences, was ordained, whatever that means. And, I did conferences for 17 years, traveling anywhere from 10 people up to 40,000 people in a room. And it was very excited. Just my main goal in all of that was just to help people remember who they are, remember their giftings, remember their callings, just realize you're not here by an accident. You're here because you have a call, you have a reason, and every person's is very, very specific and customized to them. But the DNA package is there as far as God, the technology, our intuition, gifting as far as bilocating, changing patterns, changing timelines, being able, to move and walk in greater things than these, and just walking on water, doing telepathic remote work, intuitive medical kind of stuff. And so I've always just had this real keen desire and, I guess, obsession with really walking in everything that my creator has for me, and igniting that in everybody and anyone that I can ever have contact with. Because I think there's a lot of negativity. There's just all kinds of, doom and gloom. There's a lot of fear and these agendas that keep people from remembering that we are way more powerful than any system and any situation or any religion or any government, that we're all heart, and we can do amazing things with this technology. So found out after traveling, being on 6 planes a week and doing multiple conferences a week, I got really sick, actually physically ill, from just, I think, pushing too hard and working more than a physical body should have to work, 120 hours a week or what have you. I did not have any balance whatsoever. I'm very black and white. And so when I'm on, I'm so on. And when I'm off, that is it. So I got myself so on for so many years that it had taken a toll on my physical body. So I went down the Western arena for about 6 years, trying to find answers and get some help to support my physical body. Met up with an MD after many, many trials of not working with anyone and just get people giving me more drugs with more side effects. And really that was all I knew and grew up in the military. It's pretty much just like go to the doctor for everything, right? So but found this guy who loves energy. He's a medical doctor who had a medical practice, but very ND and energy minded, very much a lover of the creator that is in all of us. And I had never been exposed to energy medicine. But working with him just in 16 weeks, I dropped 80 pounds. He had identified 29 traumas that were lodged in my body that were, I weren't sure what was dormant and what wasn't dormant. I found out 86% of most physical issues have to do with emotional issues. So trauma is huge and shifting out physical issues. You know, I was in it because I had opened myself up to those opportunities. It brought in different people. I magnetized different people to me as far as like-minded energy workers, whether they're official, you know, practitioners or doctors or nurses, or just people on the side who just love energy. And it kind of started this curiosity within me. And I started having dreams about going back to school and kind of going down this route. And so anyway, next thing you know, I think I was like almost 40 with 3 kids, single mom, decided let's go back to school and get my doctorate in naturopathic medicine. And I'm like, I know it sounds cuckoo. And everyone was like, what are you even thinking? But you know, that's what I did. And really never to like have a practice or open up a clinic or anything like that, but more just to understand me and to be able to teach to all these people that I'd been teaching to for 17 years, some new things that can help them, because they were very stuck in that Western system, just like I was. And they were seeing the results in me. Matter of fact, I would show up to these conferences and they would be like, not even recognize me, because I had completely, my countenance was different, obviously my weight. And I felt better, right? Because when you're in pain, you can be a little grumpy, you know, when things aren't feeling so great. It's difficult at times to generate optimism and hope and, you know, ease. And so I went to school and got my doctorate. And when I graduated, I had started posting some things about different educational stuff. And now these people who I had conferences with all these years, a lot of them were like every year, like a yearly deal, kind of like you do your 6-year deal. You've done this for 6 years. So I was on repeat for a lot of these places, and I would go and show up and they're like, can you teach this? Can you teach this? And I was like, absolutely. So I kind of morphed into that. And then I was actually asked by a wellness center to come teach, and then another wellness center. And, you know, it just kind of took off from there. Reverse engineering my own situation, I was then able to really not just have access to a little church building or some conference people, but it really kicked open the door for the world, because so many people are dealing with health issues. And now here I was ready and prepared and had answers, and constantly looking for ways to engage with other people to help them too, because I don't want anyone to have even a single day of pain or trauma or dis-ease in their body. And so, you know, now I'm on my 15th year being a naturopath, and really working with people, not just physically in person, but online. I did have a wellness center of my own for a little bit, and saw people, but we had a flood, and that kind of wiped out our center. I currently have a few different retreat spots that I work at and just do conferences, retreats, a lot of stuff online. I have my show, my books, my classes, and my goal is just to help every single person I ever come in contact with to remember love and to remember unity and alignment, and the giftings that we have, and how, you know, if you're seeing something and you're watching this and you have some negative patterns that keep showing up, the good news is we can fix that. Everything is fixable. You can change anything that you have created by default, because you are the creator. And it may suck a little bit to realize, oh my God, I got myself here. But the good news is you can reverse engineer yourself out of it. And, you know, my book, The Science of Miracles, is a big thing to just really help people switch timelines, switch patterns, to get out of those trauma loops, to identify your personal DNA signature code, because we all have our own code based on our genetic package, but as well as all the things we've been programmed with, you know, since birth and on. So that's kind of where I'm at. You know, I use a lot of different technology. I use biofeedback. I do soul audits. I love crystals. I have my crystal card deck. And actually I picked this one for us today. It's Tiger Eye, but I have to read about it. I just picked it this morning. So this is Tiger's Eye, and it's it allows you to see clearly and all that's required in all situations. This crystal opens up wisdom for grace and ease. I was just talking about that. It's very beneficial to grounding, opens up to clear focus. The stone helps balance and harmonize all involved, stimulates taking action in things that have been requiring attention. The decree is, I am fully present. God energy acts through me now. And the companion oils are cedarwood, thyme, oregano, and basil. And so on the back, I always put like what the physical, emotional, and mental part of that is, as well as a decree that will fit with that energetically. And then there's always essential oils that partner really well with energy in general. So everything is frequency, everything's vibration. And that's kind of my fun, my jam.
I love it. Thank you. So you created those cards, right? They're and they're all, I've got to get some of those. My daughter is in geology and she loves all of the stones. She would love that. And
I'll send you one. If you give me your address, I'll just send it to you. But yeah, 80 different cards. And
that's
yeah,
fun.
that was kind of a accident how those came to be. There's no accidents, but
delightful synchronistic accident. Right. So you mentioned there were a lot of things in there that I'd love to kind of unpack a little bit. Right away, you mentioned some really interesting things like bilocating, timeline jumping, walking on water, and all these. Like, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Are these things that you've actually experienced yourself?
I have not walked on water, but I have bilocated accidentally 2 or 3 times now. The first time that it happened, I was actually in Montana, and that's where I'm from originally. And I was at home, and when I got back to Louisiana from being there, there was 2 or 3 messages on my answer machine regarding meeting with this woman in Tennessee a few days earlier. And I didn't answer, I didn't call back. This is back whenever we had like landlines. So this is like 10 years ago, the first time it happened. But she basically was like, hey, it was great meeting you, you know, all this stuff. And, you know, please call me back. We can finish our conversation. And I didn't answer. And then I had 2, 3, 4 messages where she just kept saying, and I didn't want to embarrass her and be like, I don't know who you are. We didn't meet. You must have the wrong number. So I just thought maybe she's calling somebody else. But finally my daughter heard the phone pick up, and, you know, the answer machine, and she's like, Mom, you have to call her back. It's like, I just don't want to like embarrass her, you know? So I called her back, and she was like, oh, I'm so glad you called me back. I just want to finish this conversation, da, da, da. And I was like, I don't want to like, you know, offend you or freak you out. But that weekend that you're talking about, I was in Montana, and, you know, that, I don't know if you just called the wrong number or, you know. And she was like, no, she's like, aren't you a naturopath? And I was like, yes. And she's like, and you really like animals and you do this. And I was like, yep, that's me. And she was like, yeah, I talked to you at the front of this conference and you were standing there and we were having a conversation about her daughter being ill. And I couldn't talk because they were coming to take me back to the green room and they sort of just like whisked me away. And she said, you gave me your card and you wrote your number on there and told me, I was like, lady, you know, I was like, this is wrong person, you know? And she was like, do you have blonde hair? Do you know this person and this person? And I was like, yeah. And she screenshotted me the card and sent it to me. And it's my handwriting. I mean, I'm just like, what?
Wow.
And what's really bizarre about this is right before I finally decided to call her, I had a piece of paper on my desk and I was just kind of like doodling and I had LOVE, you know, up and down. And I was trying, you know, what is it called when you get a word for each letter? You know what I'm talking about? I'm trying to remember what that means, but you know, it's like L.
Oh,
I
an
had,
acronym?
yes, thank you. So for love, I mean, for L, I put love. For O, I had blank. For V, I had victory. And for E, I choose to remember energy, I think it was. And so I had screenshotted it and sent it to this group of girls that we all like pray and hang out and kind of ascend together. And I said, what should I put for O? And someone came back and said, how about oils? And I'm like, nah. And then someone was like, some other, you know, whatever. Meanwhile, I'm on the phone and I'm getting these texts and people are saying, you know, how about I don't remember what the things they said. Anyway, so as I'm sitting there listening to the lady and she's going on and on about what's going on with her daughter and whatever, and I'm like defending myself and telling her I wasn't there, all of a sudden I hear this internal voice and it says omnipresent. And I was like, oh, so I Google, I'm still like doing multitask. I Google omnipresent. I think I know what it means, but I'm also like, what is that just dropped in my presence? And, you know, it basically means being everywhere all the time. And I was like, oh my God. And so I tell her, you're right. It was me. It was me. You're right. I'm so sorry. What's going on with your daughter? Let's finish this. And she tells me what's going on. And basically I was able to help her and her daughter. And her issue was resolved. So, you know, our creator, when we ask to be available and we were like, hear me, send me, you know, you don't even know what you're doing sometimes in your dream life, or even while you're off in another state, you could be helping someone, you know, it really takes the whole cross-pollination, multitasking to a whole new level. But this has happened a few times now. And I really accredit it to some of the tactics that are in here and just bizarre synchronicities that are fun, and, you know, bringing lost objects back that have been missing. You know, I have so many different, my kids are doing it. My family's doing it. Everyone who reads this book has miracles, whether it's partnership or a job or finances or things lost that are coming back, or a long period of things that have been stolen. And then all of a sudden there's just like this lottery almost of the opposite. And that's what I live for, is like just getting people's miracles. Everyone who reads the book, I put in the book, and if they buy it from me in person, I'm like, don't forget to report your miracles. You will have them. And I get them all day, every week of every month of every year. And it's so fun to hear what people are doing.
Wow, that's exciting. And, you know, I've heard so many stories about bilocating, or people who, you know, they say, oh yeah, I was seen. And this has even happened to me. People will say, oh yeah, I saw you at such and such a place. I'm like, no, you know, must have been someone else. But the fact that you had, you know, because that could just be a doppelganger, right? Someone that looks like you, but you had given her the card. I mean, you can't really, like, that is just amazing that it's evidential now. Like, she has evidence that you were really there.
And I had evidence. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't even believe it, you know, and we're supposed to be doing these extraordinary things just normal because that's who we are. We're fabulous. And yet, even when it happens to me at times, I'm like, wow, that is freaking awesome.
Yeah, I love it. The more that it's the more you believe it, and the more that you do the work, the more the synchronicities, they get bigger and more powerful and more exciting. And I think each time it happens, like, we just expand the container, right? And then we're able to do it again. So I know you talk about DNA and remembering your DNA. Can you share more about that topic, and what do you mean by remembering?
Yeah, I love the word remember. Thank you for that great question. Part of my book is called The Science of Miracles, and then the tagline, Remembering the Frequency of Love. So my mentor, who's now passed, he actually passed on Valentine's Day. Um, he had a near-death experience, and the only thing he remembers when he went, besides light and tunnels and all those things, was the question is, did you learn to love? And love is everything. And what I have seen in my practice and over the years, just working with people, is we have been programmed that we are separate from God, that God is outside. And whether it's a religious type situation or even a lot of the spiritual communities, it's like this God out there, and or Santa in the sky. Someone is going to do everything for me. Or why is this happening? Why would God allow this? Or if someone's sick or whatever, why isn't God healing them? So it puts a lot of pressure on a false agenda or a false narrative. Really, to me, it's like, people will remain disappointed if they're waiting for something outside. And it's sad. I mean, I just had a dear friend in the community who passed, and she was sick with cancer for a good bit of time. And people were saying, I just don't know why God wouldn't have healed her, and la 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 la. And it's like, I get it, but I'm also like, we have physical things to do to keep that alignment. And not only physical, but mental and emotional. So we have our own DNA signature that we were born with, and those codes, that coding, everything is code, that could cause some limited things, as far as like maybe your grandmother had a thyroid issue or something, or lupus or whatever. And so you can be born into and incarnate into that package that was already previously set. But what we're told is that's not fixable. So in the Western world, people would say, even, you know what, you have not you, but let's say someone comes in and they're like, you have a tendency for having breast cancer or something. It's like, oh, well, let's just be preventative here and cut off your breasts. It's like, no, let's just work on the DNA and clear that, so nothing ever turns on for you to have that situation. DNA is changeable. Anything that has been connected to that code that may give you a different pattern that isn't your highest can be switched out. And so if something is showing up in your field as a pattern, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or maybe like you always go through the drive-through and don't get your food right, or you go one step closer to a business deal, but then they always pull that at the end, or even in partnership, just having the same patterns of a partner that aren't your highest, like that all goes back to us and our DNA. So karma is science based. They try to make it look like it's all like spiritual and hokey pokey, but everything is science. There's a science to miracles. There's a science to changing up your patterns. So this biofield that we all have can be anywhere from an inch big to unmeasurable distance. And I've tested some people who are not only an inch, but inverted all the way to 20 feet as far as their radius, to be able to have access to people in that aura, belt, whatever. So what is in display of code in your realm has to do with a few things. Number one, your signature code, which is going to be different than anyone else's, but also what you're thinking about, what you're talking about, and especially what you're feeling. those things all create code. So you can have really positive code, and you can have negative code, and you can have a mixture of code, but you only get what you are. So the more we can raise our frequency, which is a big deal, because each person, we're on a healthy adult day, we're about 67 megahertz. If you get lower than that, you're opening yourself up to dis-ease. You're going to start attracting different things, and your body can go array. You die at 25. You don't even die at 0. Once you hit 25, you're already gone. It takes about 3 weeks to hit the 0 mark. But if you start getting to 45 even megahertz, that's some serious physical stuff going on. And with physical stuff, also mental and emotional attractions, because you're going to only get and create more things to magnetize to you that are lower vibration. So the higher vibration you can be, the better. God, who is love, is the highest frequency. And there's different things we can do to increase our frequency within, which is going to give us a different projection out in the field. And then that field is not only electric, but it's magnetic. That's why they call it a biofield. So bio means two, both electric and then also bringing back in. You know all of this, but just for the sake of, your question, your DNA signature, what you're thinking about, what you're talking about, what you're feeling. Your thoughts and your words are more radiant. The heart is more magnetic. So that combination of things is going to give a push-pull to this field as we're walking around, whether we only have 2 feet of a field or 20 feet of a field, depends on. Horses are like 350 radius. Dolphins are unmeasurable. Cats and dogs are really high frequency. A cat that is purring is going to be 157 megahertz. So when you're having a low day, what happens? The dogs and the cats come around you and they try to morph that low vibe into a higher vibe by purring on you, by, getting you to pet it, or just trying to, bump you and, hey, I'm here, let me help you out. And so there's all kinds of things we can do to raise frequency, juicing, eating good raw high chi foods, essential oils, crystals, music, meditation. Everything has frequency. People can bring you up or down. So we can have like Debbie Downers, and I know everyone has their favorite Debbie Downer that they can just call you on the phone, and you can see it on caller ID and just be like, not doing that today. You can literally feel the vampire coming out, right? But and that goes back to the inverted. When I was mentioning some people are inverted, the people who are inverted literally don't generate their own frequency. So they have to live off of other people because they haven't realized that they can actually be radiant and push out some good code. So it's a happy balance of just, what are you eating? What are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you feeling? What are you focusing on? What are you reading? What are you, all of it, everything we do is going to give a higher or a lower frequency route. And the higher that we can be, the more you're going to see these synchronicities, whether it's bilocating or, thinking about someone and then all of a sudden they call you and you're like, oh my gosh, I was about to call you. Or you're asking a question and you're driving down the road and the billboard answers the question for you, or the radio comes on and says like exactly what you were just asking. So that's kind of like, that's what I mean by DNA is this code that we have. It goes out and you can only get a match. You only get what you are and where you are. So if you're not getting something good, that's the time where we have the opportunity to really look at ourselves and say, like, what am I doing? What can I do different? Maybe I can change things up to get a different response. And then lastly too, I work a lot with David Hawkins' measurable scale, which I don't believe everything that he's got out there. I think everyone has great stuff, and some of the things that he has, I'm not 100%, but I'm okay with just everybody. And I test people and I can find out what their width is of their biofield as well as their radius. I can find out if their masculine and feminine is balanced. I can find out if their chakras are going in the right rotation. And what I've seen over and over is if the male and female is balanced, if the chakras are balanced, then and there's not any trauma blocking things, that we can actually be really high on that list. You know, whether it's 300, 400, 500 is love on Dr. Hopkins' map of consciousness. And so what I'm seeing is the more we focus on getting that alignment, whether it's the right rotation or the balance in the energies, the higher up we go in score. And the higher you go up in score, the bigger your field ends up being, which is like, and this just happened by mistake. I mean, or again, nothing's a mistake, but I was like, just noticing, oh, people who are in the 300, their field is like 16 feet radius, and people who are in the 200, they have like 1 foot, and I really think it's kind of like a fail safe that our creator was like, you know what, if you suck and you're going to be negative, I don't want you to have any influence at all. I'm just going to make it like right here because I don't want you to give that to anyone else. And that's what's so interesting is the programming is the bad people have so much power, and it's like they have no power. That's why they cheat with using things like television and music and whatever, so they can actually use our gifting to engage with those projections and then create that for them, because they cannot create that. Only us. We are the powerful ones. And so our projections and what we project and what we're doing every day really matters physically on a quantum physics realm. And we are the ones that should be making the music and the movies and writing the books and putting things out, like you're doing this amazing summit. Thank you so much for your service. This is positive, and the more we can ignite others to that positive opportunity, we can literally, just with a handful of us, change the world, literally. So we don't even need everybody. We just need a tipping point.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love how you bring it into the conscious life creation and how we are creating all of it all the time. That's a huge part of my work as well. And it really comes down to who you're being. I mean, the things that you're doing are important, but who are you being, which is that connection when you know that you're divine, when you know that you're connected to God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, then, and you're generating that, your field, your expression, your thoughts, your words, your everything from that expression of, I know that I'm divine, and I know that I'm creating, and I know that everything that I'm putting out is coming back to me. It gives this whole different perspective of, so I'm going to be more present and more conscious and more aware of what I'm putting in and what's coming out. Because we want to be big, right? We want to let our energy be of the highest possible radiance. And we also want to be in good health and alignment, and we want to have a positive effect. And I think the highest expression that we can be as a healer is a presence healer, which is really what you're speaking of with the big field. So along those lines, I'd love to ask you some questions about, or just kind of get your take on when you're feeling out of alignment. It happens to everybody in the earth. So what kind of things can you, do you do personally? You can also say things you would recommend, but what's your go-to for when you're like, oh, I'm not feeling 100%. I want to get back in balance and radiate. What do you do?
That's a great question. Your questions are amazing. Such a great help support to this whole thing. Yeah, I just actually came out of like a 3-day weird kind of spacey, lethargic, I don't know what's going on in the universe right now. I thought it was just me. Then I realized like the Schumann was way off. We're in a big, full moon. There's all kinds of things that are shifting the world, and the universe, let alone us, because we're all electric. So when we have solar flares or when anything's going on in the world, that literally affects everything, and us as electric beings, and also technology, everything. So I made a post a couple days ago and I was like, is anyone feeling weird? Of course, I had so many people who were like, oh my God, yes. And different symptoms that people were having. So for me, what I did was I kept thinking, okay, I'm just going to do a lot of self-care today. I will put off anything that I need to, because I didn't want to be like showing up for an interview or doing a podcast where I'm like feeling like low or lethargic. Some of the things that I was literally feeling, it was kind of feeling like time was really, really slow, but also really fast, almost like time was like a liquid jelly that I was trying to like manage myself through. I also felt very out of my body, almost like, is this real? Is this a dream? Am I real? Is this happening? It was 3 days of cuckoo. And so what was I doing? I did magnesium baths. I did infrared sauna. I definitely use a ton of high frequency essential oils. I carried around crystals and reprogrammed. The reason why I made the cards is because when I travel, I used to bring like 30 different crystals with me everywhere, which made a pretty heavy suitcase. But now I can have 80 crystals, in my backpack or in my purse or whatever, just easy. But I take these cards, and instead of doing a book, I did cards on purpose, because this is something I can put under my pillow. This is something, just one card I could stick in my bag or bring it to my car and stick it in there as I'm driving it, or bring it on the plane or whatever. You could stick it in your kid's lunchbox. So I've been very conscious of knowing and picking which things I needed during these last few days, especially. Definitely, I did a day of fasting. Definitely, I juice pretty much all the time ever since my thing that happened years ago. So diet is different since all my shifting. Sugar and carbs are a no-no. It's the American standard diet, pretty much anything white food, but sugar will nuke your intuition like instantly, and also your energy. So if you're trying to do like really gifted things like bilocating or remote healing, or even healing yourself, or doing anything psychic, or just trying to hear for yourself, if you're eating a lot of carbs, that takes so much energy for your body to physically have to break all that down and move it out, that you will have less of a store up for the psychic type things. So if you can eliminate that bandwidth of needing to break down things or eat things, then you're going to have more bandwidth for the specific focus that you may be looking for to get answers or resolve. But yeah, I charge my water. I have a biomat. What do you do? I'm curious. What do you do? You're shaking your head like, yeah. I want to know.
Oh, thank you for all that. Now you want me to tell you, I have tons of things, but yeah, I have my crystals too, of course. And I have these photon light balls that I absolutely love. And
light balls?
Yeah, here, I'll show you one. These are the coolest. And
oh, wow.
Yeah,
what's inside? Is that like a galaxy or something?
It's kind of like an atom. I'm off the camera.
I love
it. We do meditations with these on my channel, but we'll let people, that'll be in my own interview. But so yeah, I do the green juice, like the Vitamineral Green is one that I really like. If I'm feeling low energy, I'll do protein powder. I'll do I like apples. I don't like a lot of sweet fruit. And I even have a mango tree. I just mostly freeze that and make smoothies for my son. So, a lot of things are just, I'm a meditator. I go straight to central sun and source. I'm a sun gazer. I
Mm,
like to bring the source energy through the sun, like in a physical way, into my skin, into my body, into my eyes. I have a pool. I'm in Florida. A lot of people have pools here. So I swim. The ocean's the best. I love to go to the ocean, but when I can't make it there, I'll go in my pool. So a lot of things like that. And also just the connection with nature. I go barefoot 90% of the time.
that's a good one. Thank you for bringing
Yeah.
that up. Yes.
Grounding, checking
Yeah.
in with the planet Earth. I run outside. Of course, I'm in a place where I can year round between, because I'm on the screen a lot. I'm doing a lot of interviews, a lot of web work. So I go outside as much as possible for just grounding breaks and sun. If the sun's up, then sunshine breaks. And, I'm really the elements, because I get really expanded, right? So, and I think a lot of us do. And I need to ground. I really need help grounding. So the crystals, the earth, the barefoot, the sun, all of those things are super helpful.
Yeah, I think so many people focus on ascension, 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 but a big part of being able to get anything done on this plane is being connected to the earth. So it's okay to have a high frequency as long as your feet are connected to the earth and you are very grounded to be able to bring literal heaven to earth. So grounding, oh my God, yeah, outside nature, that is the best code ever. Plants have amazing code. And I use this grounder that plugs right into the ground. So whenever I'm doing lives or interviews, I usually just plug right in to that bottom part of the grounding. So I'm literally grounding right now. But I sleep with this on too. And that is, I forgot about that. That's a really good help. Where do you get those little balls? Those are so cute. Like I love those.
Yeah, it's well, Gary Kiss is the CEO. It's called Alkywan, ALKYWAN. .us. They're under construction right now. They've just got some little ones available. They've been having resourcing issues right now, getting some of the resources, but that should be back up soon. And then there's a membership site where you can tune in. You can get virtual healing from these. So
Nice.
I'll put that, and I give a discount when people use my code Waxela. So if anybody wants to put that in when they're back up, but it's become hard to get just because of the supply issues that are happening in some parts of the world. And yeah.
I was curious too. I don't want to turn everything around on you, but your name, what does it mean? Waxela? Where does that come from?
Well, it's actually Mayan, and at the highest level, it's divine love is the meaning.
So awesome. Love it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I have whole interviews about how I got that name. Was pretty magical, but I'm not going to get into that here, because this is all about you.
Curious. I had to
Your
ask.
work. I love what you share, Sharnael, and it's just so much. It's so interesting too. You've got such a diverse amount of just, you've pulled from so many different places, and energy work, and the earth, and your cards and your book. If you could give people that are really struggling right now, there's just a lot of stuff happening in the world, and life on planet Earth doesn't really matter what's going on out there. There's always just stuff that people are dealing with. It can be difficult being human. And so, and I know you have a ton of information about how to be healthy, and you've shared some of that, but for someone that's in a struggle or just really dealing with a lot, what's your best advice for someone? Where do they begin? If they're listening to all this and they're like, oh, that's all too much for me, where would you have them start? What's the first step?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the beginning of my shift was actually having the courage to look at where I was in the first place. If you have a GPS and you're sitting in your car and you're about to go somewhere, but you don't know where you're going to go, or even if you do know where you're going to go, or where you choose to go, what your goals are, you got to have a starting spot. You have to type in the address where you are now. And unless you have an automatic phone that just says, can I get your location or whatever, it's like, it still needs that, right? So the best way to get somewhere new is to start with realizing and having that courage to say, okay, this is where I am, and to know where you're at. Anything that can be measured can be managed. So I just tell people, you know, a good place to start is to find out where you are. And some of those ways that you can do that, I mean, I look at numerology, I look at astrology, you know, I look at, you know, the physical place, you know, let's say you're in your third divorce and you're so-and-so pounds overweight and you got so-and-so health issue and your kids hate you. And, you know, all of those things that can be real at the time. It's like just sitting down and looking at where are you. I do biofeedback, and it has 30 different reports that I can send people long distance to see where they are spiritually, as far as protection, as far as EMFs, as far as their organs, their hormones, you know, their thought process, finances, you know, whatever. We can look at all of that stuff. And once we know where we are, then we can kind of get a game plan to not only customize some frequencies to send to you to kind of strip that out, but also some physical homework that you can now look, and I can maybe look at each report and go, you know what, I would suggest doing this based on this, and give you some practical homework to add to your practice to start that shift. I do coaching all over the place. I do not just patients with physical illnesses, but with emotional and or traumatic stuff, whether they've been a part of MK Ultra trauma stuff, or just, you know, bad marriages, or a bad, you know, parents bringing them up or whatever. And we can look at all that, and then we can see, maybe it's DNA, maybe it's something physical, maybe it's something spiritual, maybe it's just a mindset, maybe it's an expectation, a bad expectation that you're just bringing in more. Maybe you have parasites. You know, parasites are a physical situation, but parasites actually cause a mental and emotional and a physical response, because the code of parasites is, hey, this person is a great target to live off of. And so the code that goes out is, she's a victim or he's a victim. That goes out into the code, and then physically people will start to take advantage of that person, because they're not trying to be like terrible or you know, a bad motive, although sometimes people do have bad motives and can't generate their own energy, so they have to live off someone else and take advantage. But also people will only submit to your lowest code. So if your code is low in the boundary section or in the victim section, and you're putting out all kinds of victim energy, even if you don't know about it, then you're going to have predators who are taking advantage. So even finding out if you have like a parasite situation, or if 5G is affecting you, or maybe some brain stuff, or maybe you need to sleep more or deeper. We can look at EEGs and EKGs, and we can look at neurotransmitters, and like all the things that will show where you're at. And once I know where you're at, I can like do some easy steps of saying, hey, you know what, this little tiny change is going to shift so much for you. Or how about do this one little tiny thing, and give everybody a protocol of some daily things to do physically that are going to really change everything about your life. So that's what I would say. I would just encourage people to take that step. Now, what's really interesting, I was just talking about this, is with my soul audits. When I do a soul audit, that's when I was talking about, I can find out the radius and the width and where you are on the map of consciousness. I have been doing this about a year now. And one thing that has occurred to me just yesterday is no one has ever come to me that wasn't at least 200, which is courage. And I was like, that makes sense, because if you were less than 200, you probably wouldn't even know that you need to know where you are to get somewhere else, right? And or not have the bravery or the courage to look at yourself, to admit, oh shit, I got myself here, right? Because it takes a lot of courage to look at yourself and go, man, I could have done this different, or maybe I shouldn't have eaten that thing, or maybe I shouldn't have kept going back to that abuser, or, you know, all those things that are just all ego. And it's just so dumb. It's like, just forget all of that, you know, step up to the plate, have the courage and the strength to look at things head on and get somewhere. Otherwise, you're just going to keep in this trauma loop, and you'll keep going around the mountain, and the same patterns keep coming, the same patterns keep coming. And usually everyone stays where they're at because they don't want to do anything different. They just, they're comfortable in what they're doing. They don't know that there's somewhere else and something else available. It could be an environmental thing where they just always grew up and like, this is, you should just accept being poor. No, you are abundant. Abundance is our inheritance. We should have wealth. We should be able to create wealth regularly. We should not have to strive and work and like be out of balance 120 hours a week just to like barely get by. So there's things that we can do. And it always starts with looking inside and getting some outside help, hiring a coach or getting someone else that isn't so close to the situation that you would be open to getting some just some healthy constructive criticism and some kind of nudges or suggestions that work. And anything that I was going to tell anybody about or work with, it's because either I've done it myself already, or I've worked with thousands of people that I have been able to shift. I won't take on anybody that I'm like, oh gosh, you know, I've never done that before, so I don't want to go there. You know, I'm always going to take on people who are ready and will co-labor with me and work to see the end goal. And I've had thousands and thousands of testimonies of people, whether it's physical, mental, getting a new partner. I did a partnership event, and we literally had 2 people got proposed to during the event. And so, I mean, it's just like, if you want to find your partner, be love and remember love. And that code goes out, and then everyone finds you that is loving. And so it's just it sounds big, but it's really not. It's so easy. And all it does is just set up an appointment and you got there. But everyone has their own versions. There's so many different tools out there that people can go to and go, this is a start. Maybe this start isn't for you. Maybe it is for you. But I enjoy working with people and seeing them get to that crossing those thresholds that they haven't before, and then hearing, oh my God, they're so squealing with excitement because they're like, oh, I just dropped another 40 pounds, or, oh, you know, my boyfriend bought me flowers, or, oh, I got this promotion, or I just got this check in the mail, or my daughter says that she loves me now, like we got it all worked out, or, you know, a new house or a new car, or all the things that people are just, we should not just be like settling for anything less than love, which is sin. Actually, the word sin isn't as religious as it sounds. It just means missing the target of love. And when we are in full love and living full on love and embodying love, oh my God, the things that show up in our path, it's just so beautiful. And even today, I was preparing for you, and I had a lady, I was just sitting here and thinking, who am I going to talk to today? Where am I going to go? Who can I just sprinkle love on? Like, where, you know, just getting ready, drinking my coffee. And then someone knocks on my door, and it's like a lady up the street who her kitten is having some problems or whatever. And she's in tears. And I was just like, let me help you. Oh my God, come in my house. Let's look at your cat. You know, like, just, you never know who's going to show up when you are like, here am I, send me, I'm ready. Bring it on. I'm ready to love on anyone that comes my way and just help and serve. And it's fun. It's fun and exciting whenever you're like, I don't know what's going to happen today, but I know it's going to be awesome.
Wow. Oh, that's so beautiful. I love your heart of service, and everything that you just shared was fascinating. I know lots of people are going to hear that and say, I want to book a session with Dr. Sharnael. So how would someone go about that? And that's also a segue into your giveaway.
Oh, yeah. So I am actually giving away a free session. So if you go to swiftfire.org, that's where you can register for either the bioscan, which the bioscan, basically we read your aura field through your voice and a picture. And we use that as an API address. And then we send you 30 reports and we send you the frequencies to balance you out. You can go there for that. You can do the soul audit, which is a whole different animal. It's really beautiful too. There's classes there, there's books, but yeah, swiftfire.org, all the major platforms as well, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I have my podcast and our YouTube channel, but yeah, I'd love to connect with you guys. That's one thing I do miss about real conferences is afterwards, you would be there and I could sign books and love on people and feel their energy and look in their eyes. And I've really enjoyed us here today. And I know there's people watching, and I hope you all feel my love and connect your heart with God today and just feel that radiance and have a wonderful day.
Oh, thank you so much. So for everyone watching and listening, I'll be sure to have Dr. Sharnael's information and ways to get in touch with her on the show notes. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Dr. Sharnael. You're amazing. Sending love out to everybody. Namaste.
Awesome.